Welcome to the Meltzone Podcast from ERRF. It is October 18th, 2019. I'm Tom.
I'm Keith.
And today we are talking about cool stuff that we saw here at ERRF. For example, the Prusa Mini, whether it's actually a printer that makes sense. Oh, it does. Proto-Pasta, who you work for, are doing a live extrusion setup.
Correct.
We're going to talk maybe about how that was made happen. Okay. If we get around to doing it, we can talk about FDL and Lulspot and what is happening to either of those, at least on the information that, is open to the public. You probably know more than you can say, but
some of that, yes.
That's fine. As a kind of downer topic, while this fantastic show is happening outside, in Germany, there's been a extreme right-wing terror attack using 3D printed guns, and we're going to look into the information that is out there right now, what actually happened, and give our opinions on that. And then two more questions from the community about the E3D Hermes and about Stefan's issue with the Sapphire printer and whether it's actually the manufacturer's job to make their printers work or the communities.
Oh,
all right. Keith, man, let's actually preface this with the disclaimer that you wanted to start with.
Yes. So since we will be talking about some topics that are sensitive in nature, the opinions expressed on this show are my own and not necessarily those of the company that I work for.
Yeah. Okay, glad we got that out of the way. But let's start with a bit of an upbeat topic.
Okay.
ERRF.
Yes.
It's great. It's the first time I've been here. It's a really nice show. It's a bit better organized than Murph.
Right. And actually, that ERRF is definitely better organized in terms of Murph. It's not a free for all like the Murph topic or the Murph atmosphere. Like we had a lot of back and forth communication for Murph in terms of setting up the coffee stand that we had set up.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And then it turns out that they just kind of went with something else without. All these last minute changes just because of the miscommunications that happened and people setting up. And of course that affected a lot of other people as well. Whereas here, ERRF, it's, pretty much assigned tables other than the exhibitors themselves.
Yeah.
Which is very nice. So all your sponsors, all the, know where they're going to be at and everything. And it's much more organized, but they tried, at least in my conversations with the organizers for ERRF, they've tried to keep it loose but organized enough, so keep that Murph vibe of a RepRap Festival type thing, but not so much that it upsets the sponsors and
yeah,
like
I mean, it feels great as an event. Okay, so I'm hoping audio is slightly better. I was a bit worried about that distance, but
okay.
Yes, please excuse audio quality. This is as jank of a setup as it gets. Thank you to Hartford Community College for sponsoring this chair.
Sponsoring the chair. Thank you for using your chair.
Yeah, thanks for letting us have a green room, and I think that's one of the things that really stands out. Like the folks here, know, hey, there are people coming here that may bring some gear that they don't want to leave out on the show floor because they don't have a booth. Like this is Joel's and their team stuff here in here as well. It's just it feels really good. It feels really good.
So you're coming back next year?
I'll have to see it. I mean, I
can't get you to say yes on that.
Yeah, no. So I've already booked Murph for next year, but it's just there's so much traveling going on. It's always such an effort to do it. Right. And I've had people complain on the channel already, like, dude, make some normal videos again. Don't just push out trade show interviews because like that's getting old. And I feel like that sometimes. Like I've been at TCT 2 weeks ago.
Was that the impetus for the tweet earlier before, like you're not wanting to come out?
Oh, yeah. Hey, there's the mistake.
The mistake.
Mistake coming in. Come, say hi.
Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Hi there.
I'm the mistake. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Okay, bye. Originally, we were going to have another podcast episode with Joe, 3D Maker Noob, and Joel, 3D Printing Nerd.
Right.
But they seem busy, so...
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I'm here trying to do just little 5 to 10 minute talks on demonstrations for a couple of topics as part of Proto-Pasta's booth.
Yeah.
And also get footage. And I've been literally running from spot to spot because...
Yeah, so I guess it's nice to sit down, but then again, right now you're not getting any real work done.
Well, but it's a nice. It's a break between two of my demonstrations. So yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, Proto-Pasta, you have brought a full filament extrusion line. It's not full length, but
Right.
it's almost fully featured.
Yes.
How?
So essentially what we did is, since we build our own extrusion equipment, right, we took our own extruder and really we just shortened the line. We figured out
so the cooling line, basically.
the cooling line itself is what we shortened. And we accomplished that by simply upping the amount of active cooling and well as reducing the speed that we're extruding.
Yeah. So you get a bit less throughput and you have
Right.
more fans on there.
Right.
But other than that, it's the same design. And the Proto-Pasta machines, I don't think you're doing that yet or ever will, but I think they've been set out to be like crateable and fit on a standard pallet and be sold as just a, hey, here's an extruder, use it.
Well, I don't know that Proto-Pasta wants to get into selling extruders per se,
Right.
but that's one. Jarek, one of the guys that works actually in the manufacturing side of things, did a lot of the design work for this extruder, and it is crateable. It is entirely, and part of the crate functions as the display for this. I mean, we actually
Right.
So some of the tables and stuff like that were actually parts of the crate. The crate was designed in such a way that you take it apart and it is part of the display.
Nice.
Like the haul off and spooling area is actually the crate as it stands, a portion of the crate as it stands, as it ships.
So you're going to be doing this again?
I cannot get any kind of commitment from anybody on it being done again. It's very much a conversation of what's next.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to do next with it.
Yeah, I've commented on that before. I mean, I was expecting or was hoping that Proto-Pasta would do like filament workshops on site,
Right.
as you offer at the main
Right.
building that you're at. But that's probably a bit too much just for a show.
Well, the difficulty with doing a workshop on site is providing the breadth of options that we provide at the workshop. Because at the workshop, you have all of the colors available, all of the base materials, all of that. Here, because of what we were shipping and what we were doing, we only shipped the materials for exactly the 4 colors that we're making here.
Right, so you've got it pre-mixed, you've got it all set up.
Right, we pre-mixed it, we dried it, we shipped it dry here, and so that because we don't have all of those in a workshop or available here, so making a workshop is going to be a lot of base materials are going to have to go with it as well.
It's going to be one extra crate.
I
Probably
see.
more, yeah.
I don't know. But that's the complication is providing all of. There's such a diverse amount of materials.
Yeah, obviously, and I've seen your back room with just tons of different pigments and tons of different materials.
Because we master batch all our own stuff. So bringing all those master batches is just like that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I bet. But at least like a base. You don't have to bring everything. Just a basic, hey, mix yellow to red and you get color.
Yeah, and figuring out what that narrowing down is to make it both yet still attractive or something that somebody wants to come to and yet feasible for us is going to be the trick if we were to go to a workshop type thing.
Yeah, probably it's not going to be at a show like this because you're always doing so much show stuff, but just have like a road show kind of, hey, we're Proto-Pasta, we're here for 3 days.
Yeah, it very much wouldn't be part of an existing show because the logistics of that would just be a nightmare. Even scheduling anything within the show itself is just it's a nightmare.
Already crazy. Yeah. Cool. So that's a really nice display. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that on a show before. I mean,
no, and that
on a 3D printing show.
Right. It's wonderful. I was glad to see when it was running ahead of time. It was like it wasn't a last minute. Oh yeah, it's running. Throw it in the box and go. We actually did have enough time to set it up at the Mini Maker Fair in Portland and run it there, and then verify that things were going to work out nicely here. So we got a good dry run out of it first too.
Very good, very good. Let's see. So people, while I was doing the live stream, unfortunately the Wi-Fi wasn't that fantastic for it. I was promised Wi-Fi here, so I think it was for ERRF. Yeah, it wasn't from ERRF. So for ERRF specifically, I asked, hey, will there be Wi-Fi for live streams? And we're like, yeah, sure, we will have it.
Right.
And there is Wi-Fi for live streams, but there is not enough Wi-Fi bandwidth and just frequency bandwidth, obviously, if you actually want to run around with a phone and live stream on the go. Like if you've got a booth set up and you've got a good Wi-Fi connection, a good antenna there, it's going to work, but like that, not so much. But there were people commenting like, hey, Proto-Pasta is too expensive for me.
Right.
What do you say to that
Well,
as a representative of Proto-Pasta at this point?
We know that Proto-Pasta isn't for everybody, okay? But it is it's a quality product, and it's made in the U.S., so the costs of manufacturing are significantly more.
Why don't you manufacture in China if it's cheaper?
Well, we are kind of particular about the quality control. Right. I mean, we don't master batch our own stuff because we wanted to master batch our own stuff. We master batch our own stuff because they weren't doing it right.
Right.
So, I mean, well, the other aspect of that is it's a labor of love for everybody that works there.
Yeah.
I mean,
who else would make bacon flavored filament?
Right. So when I got hired on a couple of years ago, one of the phrases that they have on like the website and stuff like that is we're makers making filament for makers.
Yeah.
Okay. That that boils Proto-Pasta down. Everybody there likes to make things. And what's what we're doing? We're making filament for other makers. It's not about, we're not trying to put the filament out there for every single person and make tons of it.
Yeah, there's plenty of that already out there.
There's plenty of all that out there. We're not trying to be the cheapest out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
we should have put a recording sign on that door.
But
I mean, there is cheap filament out there, plenty of it.
Right.
If you just want generic PLA.
Right.
For prototypes and stuff, but what you guys do is you have the metal, the conductive,
right.
All that, the specialty stuff, and just really nice colors that you're not going to get from an Nissan.
Right. And what we focus on with our material is we want it to come off the print bed ready to use. Other than the metals, we don't generally talk about post-processing.
Right.
Okay. So we're not looking for you to print something and sand it and paint it and stuff like that. We want you to like the material for what it looks like when it comes off the print bed. Yeah. Which is why we focus so much on the aesthetics.
Glitter.
Well, glitter and it's all about it. We want it to look good right coming off the bed. We're not a sand it, paint it kind of place. The polishing of the metals is probably the only one when we talk about post processing, but those are for different unique textures or visuals.
Right. That you really can't get any other.
Right. Like the patina, the rusting, the shiny metals. I mean, yeah.
Nice, yeah. As long as that works, as long as there's people interested in those unique materials, then.
Right. Well, I mean, for example, okay, let's look at cosplayers as a market or a segment of the 3D printing filament market.
Which actually, there are quite a few of here with really nice stuff.
Right.
You couldn't tell it's 3D printed.
Right. Now, if the price is the objection to filament, okay, we're not going to get a lot of the cosplayers because we are a little bit more expensive. Okay, but what the cosplayers do is they use our material in those accent pieces. So we're not going to be, you got a suit of armor. You're not going to print it in all Proto-Pasta necessarily because that's going to get a little costly.
Yeah.
But the accent pieces, which is why Amy W. came out and did her red because she wanted jewels.
Yeah.
So she makes
this, my enemy's red.
Yeah, she makes this beautiful blood of my enemy's red because she wants gems. And so that's what she's doing. Is she putting LEDs behind all of this beautiful deep red.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, did you check out Orthographic Audio and their Blood of My Enemy's speaker?
I talked to them at Murph, but I've not seen the speaker yet.
Okay, so when you're done, check out that Orthographic Audio. He joked, he called it an ode to the workshop because he printed almost all the speakers in different workshop colors. And
that's nice.
The Blood of My Enemy's one just pops off that table. It's on the right-hand side. You'll see it. It just pops right off that table.
Nice.
Yeah.
So were the filament making workshops? Did I actually have a hand in that?
Sort of. That was, we were trying to figure out, we like these type of events. These, it's a creative energy reboost.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out something to do with, how can we do that, but without having to go everywhere somewhere.
Yeah.
So it kind of was like, hey, what if we bring people to us? And then we were like, we got a lot of requests for custom filaments. I mean, we still get custom requests all the time. But if there isn't a recipe out there for it, how do we do that? So the workshop was kind of designed for, we had Joel come, we had you come out. And so people were like, we got more and more requests for custom, and people were wanting to do that. And we were like, well, we could kind of do that for everybody if we did it as a batch. So we basically bring everybody to a workshop, and we do it 12 people at a time. And
it's a really nice experience. I mean, I've not done the workshop.
Right.
I've gotten like the extended workshop experience, but
I mean, it very much we're in this culture now where everybody wants to have an experience of some sort, and so this plays into that whole. Okay, let's do an experience. So we have them come to us. We make sure that we feed you at this thing too. I mean, and it's not just Little Caesars or something like that, which it's a local pizza joint that's been there for years, and the donuts are from a local spot that everybody loves, and just kind of it's
like a 1 day holiday.
It's a 1 day holiday, and it's all about 3D printing. And the workshop today is a little different than the very first one because we iterate it just like every maker iterates everything else. And now at the end, we actually encourage people to bring stuff to share and talk about, because during the downtimes of the workshop, people are sitting there talking with each other about different ways they use the 3D printing. And so we actually were like, okay, what if we try and get the actual work portion of the workshop done a little faster and give people more time to sit and actually have an organized show and tell of sorts.
Yeah.
Which is why Project FDL, when they brought their stuff out, they brought their blasters, and that was awesome. And then so.
I can imagine what that turned into.
That was I had some fun.
Speaking of things that are more hands-on, let's talk about something that is more hands-off, the Prusa Mini.
That was, of course, Joe played real well into that with the whole big announcement and it being a little printer. I thought that was kind of tongue-in-cheek funny, but it was just like, okay. But it's also interesting to see that there was that mini that was created. It was actually just a miniaturized Mark III that somebody had brought.
Right,
It showed. And, he's like, oh, would you guys like a small printer? And then the next thing he does is actually have a different small printer.
Well, obviously they were already working.
Well, obviously, yes, exactly, yeah. It was always real in the works, but it just kind of played into him being able to ask, hey, is this something you guys want? And I was like, oh, that worked out well,
Yeah, but what they're doing with it is that they're trying to be more accessible, which is fantastic,
right?
But they're also taking away the kit, which
the mini's not available as a kit.
On the website it's listed as a kit, but the kit portion is like 3 parts. You assemble it like a CR10 where you have the base, so and the vertical, and you plug in the extruder. So they're saying it's like a 20-minute assembly.
Okay.
So you don't actually get to build it, and I can understand why they're doing that,
right? No.
Because they can build it much more efficiently than the amount of effort they'd have to spend to walk people through it to customer support.
Right.
Which, you're familiar with doing customer support, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That can be, its own pitfall.
Right.
But there's no kit anymore. It's still all open source. It's still very much printed, which is nice. But I've always recommended the Mark III, even which is a higher end machine.
Right.
It's 2 to 3 times as much.
Right.
3 times as much.
Yeah.
I've always recommended that as a kit, not because it's cheaper and you save a buck, but because you get the experience of actually building the thing and you learn something in the process.
Right. And I agree with that. I want people to get a positive experience when they come into 3D printing. And so coming in as somebody that can build something, because that build manual for the Mark III is phenomenal.
Build manual? I've never read that.
Oh yeah, I've had to look at portions of it for particular pieces to discuss things with people in terms of support. But that's probably one of the best build manuals I've seen for a 3D printer. And honestly, I think in order to actually maintain your printer well, building it helps.
Yeah.
And so I agree with I agree with getting the kit, and you're right. The price objection on the Mark III is a really hard one to overcome. I mean, it's easy to say, if you want a printer that's going to print, get a Mark III, and then people are like, oh, okay, but that's 3 times the cost. And they're like, but it's real hard as, somebody in the community to try and explain all the differences between that third price machine and the Prusa's.
Because you don't see it on the spec sheet.
No, you don't.
It's the size is the same. The features are similar.
Right.
Maybe there are a few details like, okay, crash detection. Do I actually need that on the market?
Right.
Like, is that worth 3x?
Right.
You don't see that, but
it's a hard pitch to get those people moved. In fact, I had somebody ask me, and I said, and they were well enough off. Affording the Mark III was not an issue. Okay. Yeah. Often the objection is, well, we can't afford the Mark III. Well, okay, that's fine. I understand that. But this was some people that could actually afford the Mark III. Yeah. Okay. And I recommended it to them because, well, it was going to get them printing. And I said, and if you really want to learn it, get it as a kit. And they went and bought a $250 printer. And guess what it's doing?
Nothing, I guess. Yeah.
Nothing. No, it's sitting there, idle. They're still on their first roll of filament.
Which sucks because you guys aren't selling any filament.
No. I mean, the family members went and bought them several rolls of Proto-Pasta to go with this because it was a gift, right?
Yeah.
And they're not even like using any of it. They aren't even their first roll at all.
Now, there is certainly a case to be made for buying a cheap printer and modding it out and getting it, tweaked in your way.
Right, but I think that's more of a second printer type thing.
Depends on how you look at it. Like if 3D printing is a hobby for you, if it's something you enjoy spending your time on, then there's nothing wrong with buying a printer and learning like all the ins and outs of that and building and printing modifications to that and making it an actually great printer.
Right.
It's definitely something out there. But yeah, it's also why I'm usually recommending, if people ask me, hey, what should I buy? Just buy the Mark III or buy the Mark III's at this point.
Right.
Because like that is one that I know everyone is going to be able to use,
right?
Even though it is very expensive for what it is on the surface. I'm gesturing air quotes here for those of you listening on the audio version. The Mini, I mean, it does take away build volume,
right?
But it's still fairly big.
Yeah,
7 inches.
Right.
Each direction is still very usable. I think. I mean, if you're not okay with a 7-inch printer, you're not going to be okay with an 8-inch printer.
Right. The inch isn't going to be a deciding factor on your build volume, I don't think.
It's not. I mean, it's smaller, yes, but it's not a massive difference.
Right.
It's still the same.
Certainly not the 120 millimeter I started on.
Yeah. It does look significantly smaller. It does have that 32-bit platform, which I think is interesting that they're putting that on the lower end printer first.
Right.
But then again, the 32-bit boards are actually cheaper to produce because the Megas actually, because it's such an old, what is it, 1992 when the chip was first announced?
Yeah,
because,
it's
because Atmel is still making those.
Yes.
It's a legacy part. You're paying so much of a premium just for that processor. And what they're also saying is the development is actually cheaper for it because you have proper debugging. You have a JTAG port, which the Arduinos don't have. You have to write stuff to the serial console to see what your software is doing. Which is horrible, but it's the way that's being done.
For a long time. I used to do that stuff.
Exactly. So that part of the development is much easier, much cheaper. And also you don't have to worry about processing power because 16 or 20 megahertz is not a lot of horsepower, especially on that old architecture.
Right.
So yeah, development is cheaper. So it makes sense. And I just interviewed Prusha, by the way. What he's saying is because they're starting on a lower end machine, the board is cheaper, but they don't have all the features implemented yet.
Right.
So crash detection, even though the TMC 2209 supported, the Mini doesn't do yet.
Okay.
Because it's not implemented yet, because that's where they're saving some money. It's going to be interesting how many Mark IIIs they still sell. Because I don't think the features...
You think they're going to compete with themselves on...
They definitely are.
Okay.
Because I don't think that the features that the Mark III has, like the on-paper features, crash detection, filament sensor, which you can get on the Mini too, those aren't the big upsell or the big reason for people to get a Prusa printer. It's the fact that it's a Prusa printer and it's reliable and you get a manual and support with it.
Right.
And you still get that with the Mini.
Right.
So I can see a lot of people who, like you said, are kind of like on the edge of, do I actually want to buy a Mark III? And then maybe begrudgingly buy it and like, I spent a ton of money on it. But,
Right.
They're just going to get a Mini.
Right.
Hopefully
Yes.
I still need to test it. Hopefully, be happy
Right,
with it
right.
too.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Like, let's hope Prusa's making a margin on the minis too. Otherwise, that they're going to be cutting into their own flesh.
Yeah. It's very possible. Yeah, I mean, they may well see that it's like, oh, our Mark III volume went down significantly, and if the margins aren't quite there, it could. I mean, that's kind of what happened with Project FDL.
Yeah, which is a fantastic transition.
Okay.
Well done.
Yeah.
So, Project FDL.
Yes.
What is happening with those guys?
So, I mean,
What is Project FDL?
Okay.
For those of you who don't know,
Right. Project FDL is a foam dart league, which is the FDL, which is what that.
Oh, okay.
stands for.
I did not know that.
Okay. So yeah, FDL stands for Foam Dart League because they can't say the word Nerf. Okay, and so it's a foam dart launcher, which is a Nerf weapon to launch your Nerf darts, and yeah. So they recently open sourced their version, their most recent blaster.
Yeah.
Which took, there was a lot of excitement in that.
It's a fantastic design.
Oh,
Joel built one. I think he brought one.
Joel
So
built one. Joe
one,
Joe 3D Maker Noob brought one.
Oh, okay.
So and there's one on Filamentum's table. There's one on our table. We've all built these blasters because it's wonderful.
I still need to.
Well, you need to. Did you at least go fire one at the range?
No.
You need to.
Still need to do that.
Yes. Joel's weapon is over there for you to shoot.
Okay, perfect.
And so is 3D Maker Noobs.
I've fired the other blasters.
Okay. You need to go do that. It is and gnomes are hanging out as the targets for you.
Oh, perfect.
So which as you mentioned, I mentioned the workshop where they came to. Somebody may have set up some gnomes on the edge of the couch and just started blasting at them. I don't know who that would have been, but somebody may have done that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so they open sourced their design, and the 3D printing community, of course, latched onto that great. And so they switched from printing blasters.
So that's what they were doing before.
Yeah,
they were
yes,
actually
they were
selling you full kits with all the printed parts and all the mechanicals. And
it
all
was
the
actually
design.
fully assembled. I mean, it was it was fully done.
Yeah.
But that was their market, at least the way I understand it, on how this kind of played out. I'm making some assumptions here. Is the market seemed to have been the actual people that were in the foam dart leagues and playing with this. Okay. And then they open sourced it. And so now all the 3D printing community guys are like, great, wonderful. I'm going to print the parts. So now Project FDL is selling just electronics kits.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's see. 3D printed parts with electronics versus kits. Which one has more margin?
It depends on how you set it up.
Right. But
depends on how much labor you have to put into them.
right.
Too. Yeah.
But so now they're selling kits that are available, and they're no longer actually selling a completed unit.
Right.
Okay. So their market segment has shifted, and it was rather abrupt because there was a big push. I mean, everybody was excited about this.
Yeah.
And so it was very sudden.
Was this their full-time gig? Or?
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
Their whole family lives off the income from making those blasters.
That is pretty impressive.
So now they're no longer printing blasters; they're just selling kits. And what I understand is that a lot of those electronics are the same stuff that are used in the drones. And
yeah, I've seen some parts. It's off-the-shelf parts for the most part.
And so apparently something to do with the motors, the way the motors are used in the blaster versus the way they're used in the drone world. And they keep iterating the drone motors, caused a lot of support in terms of figuring out motors that were going to work for the blaster. So they were sinking a lot more time into making sure the kits were good with the ever-changing supply lines.
Right.
So they're putting a lot more time into this, and and with a lower margin product.
Okay.
And so that
can't work out.
Yeah, no, and so it's kind of like success. I mean, the demand was huge for the kits, but it was just not. It didn't help them.
Yeah. So the question is, I mean, you're saying it's two different customer bases, the ones who are printing them and buying the kits, and the ones who are buying the fully assembled ones. Are they still selling the fully assembled blasters?
Yes, these are, but the orders for them have went down drastically. Just like you're talking about Prusa and essentially eating their own flesh. That's kind of what sounds like happened with Project FDL.
Okay.
You've got two competing products, one with a low margin on it, and one with a higher margin on it, and everybody's going for the low margin one. And and so, Yes, it was.
How do you make that work though?
I don't know. I mean, long term, it may have worked if they got back to getting more customers coming from the foam dart league type stuff, and less of the big push of people coming from the 3D printing community. Because I can print my own parts. I can do what I want with that portion of it, which is great. I love the fact that it was open sourced from that perspective. That you could print the parts because we have printers, but unfortunately, all the people without printers didn't keep buying units, and they were spending a lot of time on on the kits.
I don't know if again, I'm not deeply into Project FPL, but it feels like there was an overlap of people who actually would have bought the kit, but were more interested in having that blaster. Yeah. So the only option they had to get that blaster was to buy the fully assembled one.
Right.
So it's not league. Well, I don't know how deep that Nerf blaster league.
There's a lot of people out there. I mean, not doing it.
So it's the people that are actually playing in those leagues that are buying and building the kits.
Right.
Okay. So it's not that those people would exclusively only buy fully assembled ones.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's just that it was very much a competing product, and it took two competing products from the same place. Took too much flesh out of the one product. And, and then like you said, the ever changing supply line of, at least as I understand it, the motors, because the specs on those kept changing, and so trying to find ones that would work appropriately.
So the official story that I know is, hey, we couldn't find enough supply for the parts. And
right.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Because if you just have a handful of blasters that you're selling, low volume, basically, you can probably find stock of those motors that you need.
Right.
If it's 50 or 100 motors.
Right.
But if you're all of a sudden trying to find 2,000 of them,
right,
and that's going to be really challenging.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So if they're printing, I don't know the volumes. I don't know the volumes that they were doing, but let's just assume that they were printing 10 a month. Okay.
Right.
All right. And now all of a sudden they're doing 50 kits a month. Okay. And so, that I don't know what the margins are, but you would seem, if you're selling a bunch of these and not so many of these, that hopefully there's enough profit overall that that's going to work out. And it may have long term, but if you're getting 50 motors a month all of a sudden, and the supply line is changing on you, and you're constantly having to find different ones because they're changing, now your kits are iterating, and if people are asking for support, you've got to. It just becomes a huge nightmare, I think, in terms of all of that. Are
they doing some sort of crowdfunding, Patreon membership thing? Because that's the one thing that comes to mind for me, of course, because I'm largely funded by my patrons.
Right.
As soon as you bring in a community project like Marlin even or open source blasters or anything that gives back, there will be people that are willing to also give to that project voluntarily on a regular basis, Patreon, etc. It's probably not going to be like, if you're saying it's a whole family, making the money on that. It's probably not going to be right away something that's going to support them in that hard cut. But I think something to look into. I don't know.
Long term, I think they could have. Long term, I think it could have worked if there wasn't the additional issues of the supply lines of the motors. At least that's the one part I know that they were having some issues with. I don't know if there were other issues with other parts within that thing. But the motors were used as an example in some of the stuff that I saw.
So what are they doing moving forward?
That I don't know exactly. From some of the hints that I've seen, I mean, you talked about fans and support Patreon wise. There was a huge outcry of support in terms of, but at the same time, it's that open source stuff where it's like, oh, that's too bad. It's wonderful. But, all the apologies, I'm sorry you guys are going, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean,
but that's nice to have.
Right.
And it's encouraging, but at the end of the day, it doesn't put food on the table.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And that's the unfortunate thing with open source type stuff like Marlin and everything else is it's great that you verbally say I support this and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you aren't actually buying anything or supporting them with money, then the project isn't going to be there forever.
Yeah.
At some point, that's the negative side of open source stuff, is that there isn't always the money there that needs to, even if it's just a little bit for one family.
perhaps it's not meant to be. Perhaps open source is not something. If it's a quote unquote small product like a blaster, I'm sure there's been plenty of development work in there.
Right.
Maybe that's not something that can even continually support an entire family.
No.
I don't know. It's still a tough topic.
It is. It's definitely something that I've been thinking various things about on it.
Yeah.
Just what it means overall.
There's no definitive answer on it.
No.
Some people can make it work.
Right.
Thankfully.
I mean, yeah. So
yeah, I'm getting NPC&C flashbacks here.
Yeah.
Because it's the exact same topic, right?
Right. Well, I mean, as a filament manufacturer, of course, there are very much people making their living off of what they've printed.
Yeah.
And I like to talk with those people about their businesses, like they're trying to figure out, so I can understand what, some people are making pens. They're making 3D printed pens and making
them.
Yeah. And it's like, I would have never thought of that. But so I like to have those conversations, but the most successful ones that I've seen actually turn out to be ones that they will not release their designs. Because the community will be like, oh, please open source it. I have a 3D printer.
Yeah.
But then something like FDL happens. They open source the design, and now their bread and butter just all suddenly went away.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was the very suddenness of that shift. I mean, not that a business couldn't have reacted to that shift, but when, if you're not prepared for it and you don't have, a huge buffer in the bank to send to that support and all, handle that shift, it's easier for larger companies to handle a shift like that than a small company like a family.
Now, the question obviously that I still have is, if it's a blaster that there's no margin to be made on a parts kit, like, isn't somebody else just going to come along either way, whether or not they open source it and make a cheaper version of it? Because the figuring out of the design has already been done, and it's just
it sounds like the parts themselves are changing enough that somebody's going to have to take it on as a passion project in order to make sure that the parts are compatible with each other as far as electronics.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I get this feeling that if nobody maintains the parts compatibility, it won't be around for long in terms of being able to be something. I mean, like, you can go print the actual casing of it, but the electronics that go inside it, you may not be able to get parts that are compatible, or you may spend a lot of time figuring out which ones are.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough for sure.
There's lots of things. I mean, we could probably talk the whole show on Project FDL.
Yeah. So let's actually skip Bloatspot, because you probably need to go get back to a workshop at some point.
Let me just check real quick here. I need
12 a.m. 12 p. Is it?
I
is noon p.m. or a.m.?
Funny you should ask that.
Germany uses 24-hour time,
right,
everywhere. So
what? So 24 hours. So 12 a.m. and 24-hour time is 0000, right? 4 zeros.
Okay.
Right. So that makes it 12 a.m. because it's the morning.
Okay.
And so noon is 12 p.m.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because you're not the first person to ask that recently, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting. But I don't have to go anywhere till 12:30. So
okay, perfect. US is weird. I mean, you guys into your units, like.
Oh God!
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I don't want to get started on that. I do typically 24-hour time, and and now that I'm in 3D printing, metric as much as possible. Yeah, no, I don't like our units. Yeah. I agree.
Cool that we're on the same page here. Let's see if we're on the same page for this next topic.
Okay.
Which is about, firearms too. Here is the backstory, and I may be getting this slightly wrong, so please read the appropriate article. So in the German town Halle, a extreme right-wing attacker has killed 2 people and injured 2 more using what has been called 3D printed guns. So it's been a anti-immigrant, anti-Semite, whatever you want to call it, attack. The guy apparently also had 4 kilograms of explosives in his car, and he was ready to shoot up a synagogue. But the only reason he didn't manage to do that, well, were 2 things. Well, I guess that the bigger one was that they locked their doors.
Okay. Smart move. Yeah. Lock the door.
Which sucks that you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason was his firearm jammed, so he did not manufacture that correctly. What the fuck? First of all, the entire 3D printed firearms thing, it's been chewed up and down,
right?
For sure. And this is the first case where it's been reported that there's actual shit happening with them.
Yeah, but
so here goes the explicit tag. But
based on the images of the weapon,
yes,
that were used,
which I don't know if that is the actual confirmed police image of it.
Right.
We're going to show that to you here on camera real quick, and we're also going to link the thread. So that is one of the firearms used. So that is a design that apparently can be made without 3D printed parts entirely. And if you look at the receiver, the receiver and the barrel, and the loaded parts, it's all stock aluminum and steel tubing.
Right, and welded together.
Yeah, so that's he had 4 weapons in total. This is a submachine gun apparently. The other one was a what did they call it? A slam fire shotgun, essentially. So it's
I want to show them that one.
Yeah, let me get on rotate here because it is rather long. So there we go. So that is the other one that he used, and that is basically just steel tubing and maybe a few welded parts. Yeah, but the 3D printed part of that is this part up front here. So that's a shell holder where you have 6 shells or 5 shells around the barrel, and you basically have a quick way to access them.
So essentially his speed loader was 3D printed, so it's a 3D printed weapon.
Yeah.
Is the claim, essentially.
That's what it's being portrayed as. Right. And of course now we get to, so it's 6 shells. Apparently, no, 5. I'm bad at counting.
Okay. So
apparently the guy was known to have published 3D printing blueprints, files for DIY weapons. He's apparently written about that attack on forums before. So it's not like this was coming out of the blue.
Right.
Which is its own topic on itself. But let's talk about the God. I don't want to talk about this because this sucks, but
the perception is that if a part is on there, the media latches onto the 3D printing.
Yes. And
gets this negative view on guns and 3D printing.
Yeah, and it's probably NordVPN is probably gonna kill me for this, but their agency was specifically like, hey, I'm gonna upload a NordVPN sponsored video in a second. They were like, hey, because you're doing 3D printing, like one of the things we can do is circumvent censorship around topics that may be illegal in your area, like 3D printed content. And I was like, I don't really want to advertise that. I'm sorry. That's no, not touching that. And literally half a day later, we get these news.
Right.
So it is apparently it's a topic that people know about, and this is just going to drive it home even more.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because the media likes, of course. I don't know why they want to make 3D printing bad.
You know why bad stories always catch on more. Like, hey, this is this new killer technology that everyone's going to be making firearms that are untraceable with.
Right.
Which is being done.
Right.
And now we have proof that it's being used for bad.
But that's not a 3D printed weapon.
It's so that slamfire shotgun definitely is not. Like that.
You've got a 3D printed accessory on a gun.
Yes, that is true. The other one, the core part that is like legally defined as the firearm is regular metal parts.
Right.
But I see that the magazines are printed, the grip is printed, some receiver parts are printed as well. And of course, there are those models like the AR-15 low receiver, which we all know about, which is in the US at least legally the only part that is a gun,
Right.
and that you can fully 3D print on an FDM machine.
Right. Just that lower assembly.
Yeah.
But the perception that the media likes to give is that the entire weapon is 3D printed, which there are very few plans that can be done that way. It always seems to be a stretch where it's like, oh, so there's that 3D printed accessory on the Slamfire rifle, and so that makes the whole weapon 3D printed, at least in the minds of the media, and then therefore portrays it to society.
No, in that case, very definitely 3D printing made it or made this gun work.
Right.
The thing, of course, is you could make firearms in another way with a lathe or a mill, or even just taking the. I mean, plastic parts are not something that needs to be made out of plastic.
No,
you could take plywood sheets, glue them together, and make a magazine. And
right, yes, no, that's
the same fashion.
And that's where why is 3D printing taking all of this negative heat for stuff that can be done via other means, and via other means better, because
it's been done in that way.
Right.
Specifically. The question though is if if you're saying, okay, it could be done better in other means, like why didn't this freak do it in another way? Why didn't he do it with wooden parts?
I don't know.
Was it because it's easier for him to make 3D printed weapon parts than doing it? Probably is.
I mean, a handle is kind of a unique. It's an organic type shape. I mean, it's designed to be ergonomic. All right, so yes, wooden handle may be a little bit more difficult, but a rifle stock is wooden.
Yeah,
I mean, so I really don't like the fact that we're trying to give this negative image of 3D printing just because you can make parts for stuff. I mean, this goes into that. I mentioned it to you earlier. Is that a 3D printer is a tool.
Yeah.
Just like a saw or a lathe or, all of those types of things.
Or a framing nailer.
Right. All those types of things. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
And most people are going to use it in whatever they're already doing. I mean, there's not everybody gets into 3D printing as a hobby. That's the sole thing they do. There's 3D printing as a hobby because you like to play with the designs, or there's 3D printing as a hobby because you like to fix the printers. But not everybody gets into that. There are people out there, as strange as it may seem to you or I, that the 3D printer is just another tool in their arsenal of tools, like the saw or anything else.
Yeah.
And that's where the mass adoption of 3D printing is really going to come in, because not everybody's going to be a 3D printing hobbyist.
Yeah, I mean, we're already at that point.
Yeah.
Where it's just getting so accessible.
Right. And so we need to realize that it's a tool. I mean, the CNC machines have been able to, and have for many years, made weapons.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the better way to make them.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for a long time. Why are we not talking negatively about the CNC ones?
It's always been done that way. The thing is, CNCs are a bit less accessible than a 3D printer. If you can get a printer for $150 from wherever that prints these parts, these are not good-looking parts. Like these are made on some cheap printer for sure. If the barrier to entry is like $150 for a tool that can be so versatile, that can be used for so many different things, like I think that's just making it easier to reproduce these parts as well. It's less work that you have to put into manufacturing it, because the printer does the job, versus doing it manually with wood or whatever other materials.
Well, and we did talk about the fact that the automatic portion of that weapon didn't function because of a millimeter clearance or some type of thing like that.
So let's just get that clear. If that thing did work, more people would be dead right now.
Yes, yeah. But going back to the $150 printer, how accurate are those prints? How good are those prints that come off of there? I mean, yes,
apparently good enough. So it wasn't. So the design flaw apparently wasn't on the 3D printed part. It was on one of the parts. That's what I picked up. I might be getting this wrong. On one of the parts that he manufactured by hand. So it was just a simple measurement error that he made. So he had like a millimeter too tight, so it wouldn't repeat correctly. It would jam on the on whatever cycle. I do want to give a bit of a background of German gun laws.
Right.
So the way we handle it, and I did pick you because you're an American.
Right.
You guys are a bit different here. So German gun laws work in the following way, where basically nobody can own guns unless you use them for sports or you're a hunter.
Right.
You have to go through background checks. You have to go through training.
Right.
It is checked that you are properly keeping your stuff in a safe.
Right.
If you're not mentally capable to own a gun, you are not allowed to have one in your home.
Okay.
You can still shoot them, as far as I'm aware. You can still shoot them at a shooting range.
Right.
You can keep it in a safe there. That's fine. So we have, I think, fairly strict gun laws.
Okay.
Having grown up with that,
Right.
I think they're fairly reasonable. People might disagree, might think they're too strict. They're not strict enough. But I think that the core is also, if you buy a firearm, of course, you need to have a gun license. You need to have some sort of indication that you're using it for sports or for hunting. And it needs to be registered and all that. And of course, what accessible 3D printing and CNC machines do, of course, is that entire untraceability and giving people access to firearms that shouldn't have access.
Right.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, at least in Germany, sharing files that can be used to manufacture parts is gray area or illegal. So
It'd be interesting, because then how do you know the difference between, let's take the trigger assembly, which the trigger is a kind of a unique looking part, and right, but how do you know the trigger assembly on a foam dart launcher versus a trigger assembly on?
I believe some parts are freely available. Just like in the US, where the low receiver is the weapon itself. I think in Germany, like some parts you can get without any checks. So you can just order them online.
Right.
But parts that I think are crucial and essential to a firearm, I don't know. I'm no expert on that topic. But some parts are, of course, restricted in who can buy them, who can manufacture them legally. And the thing is, we are on the internet.
Yes.
3D printing exists because the internet exists and people were sharing ideas.
Right.
And this is now something that, obviously still is happening on the internet, but now we have to differentiate. Okay, it's okay in these areas of the world and it's not okay in these other areas of the world, which is, impossible to regulate.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, you can say that it's you can't share, but it's gonna happen. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to say whether it's good or bad. I'm simply saying it's going to happen. It's not.
That's the core of it, right?
Yeah, it's not a matter of, can you legally share the files or not? It's
people will do it.
It'll do it. Yes.
Like we've got the Onion Network, we've got Tor, we've got proxies, darknet forums. I mean, if people want to share it, they're going to use mail. And mail around USB thumb drives.
Right. Exactly.
Carrier pigeons.
Right.
Who knows? People are going to find a way.
Yes, they're gonna share it.
So, is there? Here comes Joel. Is there anything that we can? Hey, Joel.
Hi, Joel.
So should we blame the machines or the people who are making the machines available for stuff?
I can't see how we can. I mean, that would go back to, we would be having to blame the lathe and the CNC for weapons as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's how your legal weapons are manufactured. Okay? And at least in the US, all right, manufacturing your own weapons is legal. That may not be something people approve of, but you can manufacture your own weapons. And so and it's being done on milling machines and lathes currently, and so the 3D printer is just a tool. People are going to use it however they feel they're going to use the tool. Like, I mean, that's, let's go back to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh God,
chainsaws.
Chainsaws,
the tool. right?
Yeah, at its core, as is a machete.
Right, as is machete.
Actually, in Germany, the machete is like the only large knife you're allowed to carry.
But what makes a machete a machete?
Not carry on a, as in like you carry like a sword, but because it's a tool, right?
Right. So what makes a machete a machete? What's the difference between a machete and a sword? They're both long blades.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
It's a difficult topic. It really is. I mean, it's just But why do we have to demonize 3D printing?
Okay, why is it difficult? The difficult is because you can't do anything. Like, people are going to use the tools in any way they want.
Right.
So, like, you can't keep them from doing that.
Right. I think we've said it a couple of times that these weapons could have been made so many different ways. The fact that he chose 3D printing makes it 3D printing bad.
Yeah.
That doesn't jive with me at all. He could have made it in so many other ways. This is plans that are available to. Actually, it sounds like almost intended to be made a different way, but he chose to do 3D printing.
I believe that model that he did make was a model that was originally totally non 3D printed, and he kind of adapted it to be printable. Okay. How do we get out of this hole?
I don't know. I think we just gotta go. Yeah, that's a done topic.
That's that. Like,
I think we're gonna end up keep talking about it.
You can't. Really,
I mean, like, as a society, we're gonna keep having to have this conversation of it's just a tool.
I mean, even if we say we're gonna put DRM on all the printers, we're gonna check every G-code file that you upload before you can print it. Like, I mean, scanners. 2D paper scanners, they won't scan currency.
Correct.
Or print currency. I don't know which way it is around. Photoshop won't open currency because you're not supposed to.
Correct. Right.
But there are tools out there who will.
Right.
So,
I mean, there are tools to get around those DRMs. Yeah,
exactly. So, I don't know. We got to figure out something here because this sucks. The fact that this happened, the fact that it was apparently possible for someone to build these parts sucks. But I don't have an answer for what we can or what we should do.
Right. No, because, I mean, there's multiple different conversations within this as a whole, obviously. But I think we can all agree that 3D printing was not the cause of this. 3D printing was not the demon in this. 3D printing was the tool that they used to accomplish parts of it that could have been done many other ways.
Yeah, I mean, we could, of course, get into that entire topic of how the hell he thought that was okay or how he felt legitimized to actually, even plan an attack like that.
Right.
So, let's move on to a few questions from the community because you need to go in 5 minutes.
I do.
Let's make a hard cut and jump over to the E3D Hermes extruder. So, Ask Questions, Try Things was asking, hey, it looks like you can bolt multiple E3D Hermes extruders together for dual extrusion or even more extruders for as many filaments as you want. So, the Hermes, you're familiar with it?
A little bit. I didn't get the inside scoop like, some of you other folks. Get to play with it, touch it. Yeah.
I got one. I'm going to get another one.
I'm not on that list.
I will get a second one soon.
Are you going to dual extrusion it?
No.
Okay.
No, but I can try how they fit together.
Yeah.
So with the Titan, they had a left hand and a right hand version where from that block, the hot end was offset to like the opposite corner.
Right.
Hermes does not have that. Hermes, I think, is relatively centered actually from where the filming comes out. Now, what Ask Questions Try Things is saying, I think, is going heatsink to heatsink. Sorry, I need to get some lunch here in a second. Heatsink to heatsink. It looks like that's closer than what it's actually going to be because that heatsink is always shown without a fan, right?
Okay, right.
So you still need to put a fan on that.
Right.
That's going to add a centimeter, 10 millimeters. You have to add them both in. Then you need to give it a bit of room to breathe. So you're going to get some distance between hot ends if you actually do it that way, face to face. If you do them side by side, like you're getting that standard 47 millimeter spacing that is a name, NEMA 17.
Right.
I forgot which size our motors were. Wow. But
it's been a while since you built one, right?
But the good thing is with the Hermes, because there's nothing sticking out, you don't need to get to the sides, which was one of the design goals. You don't need to get to either left or right side, As in with Titan, you had to get to the side at least to adjust the tension. Then there was
Right,
something sticking
right.
out on the side. So you couldn't really stack them as closely as you wanted to. With Hermes, you can do that. And I think the airflow on that fan is also accounting for that because it's going upwards slightly.
Yeah, because my understanding is that the Hermes was kind of designed with the tool changer in mind.
I guess.
I mean,
why? Yeah.
Why not?
But
I mean, it was their current project.
What's
but-
good for the tool changer also is good for any other printer.
Right. No, in terms of size and swappability, I mean, this is a conversation kind of we were having with some other stuff is that the idea of changing out the hot end, whether it be automated on a tool changer or simply having a hot end as a cartridge that you can swap out easily for the right tool for the right job kind of idea with the hot end.
Yeah.
I think that plays into it, like you said, with the left and the right.
Yeah.
Because in addition to that nozzle being left, right, the tensions were on the left, right. And so you had to play with that
That's
mirror.
true, yeah.
So you could only, like in a dual extrusion, like an IDEX type system, you could have to have your tension over here and over here. And the nozzles were sitting down really close to each other.
Yeah.
And you know.
Well, in the IDEX, that doesn't really matter, but
No, it doesn't.
like a 2-on-1 carriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, of course, with Hermes, you can stack them in a 47 millimeter grid, or maybe 50 if you want a nice round number. You can do that. Can you still mount them though? Because the mounting flanges are on the side. I guess we can figure something out.
I'm sure this community will figure it out.
Yeah, we figured out a lot of things.
Yes.
And one last question from Steve Wallace or comment. Stefan, check the Facebook group for the Sapphire. There's a lot of useful info and people who can help you through the bumps on the Sapphire Pro or Sapphire Ice printers. Which is great that there's that resource. What I want to add to that is is it the community's job to fix a manufacturer's shitty printer?
My answer is no. Sorry, no. That's not the community's job. It's the manufacturer's job. I should make that clear. Based on how that question was asked.
Right, yeah.
It's not the community's job. This is one of those things where I get into a lot of discussions with people about, the lower end printers versus the higher end printers is, I can buy it cheap and the community will help me fix it and stuff like that. And I'm like, how many other products do you buy knowing that you're going to have to fix it?
Yeah.
And that the community is the support group and not the manufacturer.
Yeah. Again, like we said with the cheaper printers, with the Prusa Mini versus Endo 3s, the Endo 3 is usable out of the box at least, but with those cheaper printers, if you want to do that, that's fine. If you set out with the premise of, I'm going to buy this printer and start modding it, I'm going to start fixing it,
right?
That is fine. But that shouldn't be the norm. The way that these machines are advertised, they're not advertised as, hey, this is a pile of parts that you use and that you basically adapt to your needs.
Right.
This is a 3D printer.
Right.
And if you buy something that is marketed as a 3D printer, I would expect that you do get a 3D printer, not a community project.
It's right. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want a printer, not a community project.
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
There are parts kits out there that maybe explicitly are sold as that, but the Sapphire, last time I checked, was a 3D printer, and you would expect it to work. You would expect there to be some quality control and just a functional design out of the box. And if it's not, then Stefan and myself, we review machines. That is something that needs to be taken into account when we draw our conclusion from the things we see. Okay, that's gonna be it for today. Lots of fun, uplifting topics.
Yes,
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you guys for sticking through this. Thanks for watching, listening, wherever you consume our podcast. Support me or Stefan or you guys by, Stefan and myself, you can support through Patreon or YouTube memberships. You guys just, as a non-representative of Proto-Pasta, you can still buy the Proto-Pasta filament.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for being here and goodbye.